Beauty Marks podcast, where we embrace our marks acquired through our journey. My name is Elizabeth Savion, and welcome to another episode with a little Christmas edition. And I am here with my coffee that Vivian and Chris delivered to me from High Hill Labs here in downtown Orlando. This is a beautiful studio space that you can create your content, have events, and all of that. And I will put all their information down below. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. All of that helps us to grow with this podcast, to let me know what you love, what you would love to hear more about. And as this year closes and we are doing like the year end of year recap, this is the best time so that I know what to plan for next year. If you are also a local in Orlando, we have our She Cultivates group, and so make sure to join the community at She Cultivates ORL, and we are hosting our Vision Board Party 2024 January 20th, and all the ticket information for early bird will be also in the tickets down below and all the information. Ooh, that's a lot of things that I'm sharing with you guys, but I am very excited for today's episode with Daniella and Alex from the Soul Sisters podcast. Welcome to Beauty Marks podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. We're
Such
excited.
an honor to be here.
We're so excited.
Very excited to have you guys. I know this has been first in the works of you guys being friends for 18 years and you guys starting a podcast. How are you guys feeling being on that side of hosting now?
I mean, I told her I was nervous at first starting the podcast. I was like, is this going to cause division in our friendship? You know, because it's like so much planning and so many things. But I feel like it's caused us to actually get closer in a lot of ways, because we've been talking about a lot of hard topics and like, you know, and just spending more time together.
Yeah.
It's caused us to, it's forced time together.
Yes.
To really reach out and make the effort. Be intentional, as we like to say a lot on the podcast.
Yes.
Be intentional about our friendship.
So we're being intentional by starting a podcast together.
I mean, honestly, one of my best friends, she like works with She Cultivates, and like we do it together, and I'm like, we see each other now more than we ever did before.
Totally.
Like, for the events, and I'm like, I love this. Like,
totally.
And sometimes it's like, okay, is this like our work hang, or is this like our like just hang to like just talk about everything else outside of that?
Totally.
Or you intertwine both, and you're like, we're doing a little bit of both.
Yes.
That's happened on several occasions.
Yeah, a lot of occasions.
You're like, let me catch up. Okay, like you gotta tell me, catch me up. What is happening this past week? But then it's like you're still talking about like business.
We got a
stuff.
plan. Yeah.
Yes. And so, can you share a little bit about your guys' friendship? A little bit about you guys, what you enjoy, because for those of you that haven't met them, they are from Miami. They met in Miami.
You'll get to hear that a lot if
here.
you listen in.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love talking about our story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to come on first because they talk about a very important topic, which is friendship. Having a friendship that has lasted 18 years as an adult, like through adulthood, that's huge. And just kind of sharing a perspective outside of mine of what I believe about friendships. You know, I want to hear kind of how you guys have navigated friendships, what helps you guys now even talk about it with others. So, Alex, if you want to start.
Okay, yeah, sure. So it's been a journey, but it's been an amazing journey. Again, me and Daniella have known each other for 18 years. There's a lot of room to continue growing together as friends. It has been an amazing journey, and it has had its ups and downs. I mean, obviously, you know, we have gone through our stages of life. Daniella did at one point move away, so, you know, we kind of just fell off for a little bit because, you know, it's hard to, especially as young adults, to find like the funds to go take a flight to California. I mean, I did once visit, and that was a blast.
That was super fun.
But you know, you kind of drop off a little bit and you kind of do your own thing for a little. It's kind of like a little friendship break. It was a break. But we were definitely able, and I love that every time we kind of do, you know, sometimes we'll go like a week without talking. I mean, not now with everything going on, but, you know, a couple days go by. It's not like we're talking every day, but we can always pick up right where we left off. And we always have fun doing it. And part of that also is kind of that we're just so incredibly passive.
Both of us. We're both nines.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that is. But, like, would you say that your guys' personalities are the same?
it's so weird because I feel we always talk about this. We're so opposite in so many ways, but yet I think at our core we're very similar. We both have the same sense of humor, which I think is super important in friendship.
Yes, for sure.
And we both have the same morals overall.
Okay.
So I think those are two really important things that have kept us together. Like, you know, no matter what anything else externally happens, we are always gonna like come back to that, and we know we can trust that in each other, and we just like ultimately just have fun together.
Yes.
Overall,
Yeah.
you know,
It's always a good time.
Very
It's always a
seldom
good
that we're
time.
serious. I don't think
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
ever serious.
yeah, we're serious like 1% of the time.
Yeah, which is the podcast. If it's even a serious topic.
Yeah.
And then at some
And
But
then
I
point,
feel
always
like
have
you
to
guys
talk
are
about something
always
silly.
laughing because
Yeah.
I met you through like when we were doing like the modeling
Yeah.
for the wardrobe, and I'm like, oh my god, like your guys' dynamic, like because I
Aw.
feel like also for you, it's like from the outside, it's like, oh, she's introverted, she's a little shy, but it's like when you're like around the person that you feel the most comfortable, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
you're like yourself,
Yeah.
you know. So I was
Yes.
like, I love y'all's dynamic.
Yes.
Like I love it.
That's so
Yeah.
funny because so many people say that to us,
Yeah.
which is honestly the reason I was like, Alex, we gotta do this. Is that we on our own we're usually both a little more introverted in general, but when you put us together, then
Yeah.
it's just like we are just on another level. We're just
Yeah.
like love to have fun and be silly and
the,
laugh.
she's the extroverted that adopted me.
Yeah.
Every extrovert has an introvert
They
that they
really
adopt.
do.
So I was that, and she
Yes.
helps me come out of my shell.
Yes.
Because if not, I
And
would
same
never.
for her too, because I can be on the quiet side too, but when you put us together, because she just makes me laugh, and then that's to me is the ultimate icebreaker. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it breaks
You
all the
can't be
tension.
serious, yeah.
So we have a lot of fun together. But yeah, many people have told us like you guys are so funny together, and of
Yeah.
course I like my ego like it's so big. I'm like we need a podcast.
We
need a reality
everyone
show.
to know about us.
The whole world needs to know about this.
I actually think there's like a TLC show that's like, I know it's like something with sisters that are super close, but I think that there's a friend one now.
Oh really?
It's like something where it's like you're super, like you do everything with your friend. It's kind of like the obsessive people with it. But I'm like, honestly, some people, like they have
They
a
do,
bestie that
yeah.
it's like they're tied to the hip. And that's just,
Yeah.
you know, and then
Yeah.
you have that with sisters as well. Because I know
Yeah.
we talked about
We
that
talked
on your
about
podcast
sisters,
a little
yeah.
bit.
That's
And
so
so
funny.
for you, Daniela, like how has that been like in the stage that you are at and like over the years? Because I know you guys met in high school. So how have you guys kind of kept up like with evolving and changing over the years?
Yeah. So yeah, it has been such like literally your whole life changes within these last 18 years. Like we went from kids to now, you know, wives. We're both wives and I have kids. So a lot changed. And I think even though we are in different stages, I have kids and Alex, you know, has her fur babies. We've been able to make it work, honestly, just with intentionality of just being like, I think I had to make a decision. I don't want to speak for you, but I know I made a personal decision. Like looking back, like maybe, I don't know, maybe when we moved back to Orlando. So we lived in LA for a couple years and me and my husband moved back to Orlando like 7 years ago when we had our oldest. And I think when I got back to Orlando, I'm like, Alex is it. I'm like, you know, now that we're back here, I'm like, Alex is it. I'm like,
My heart.
yeah, I'm like, why pursue? Obviously,
Why
I did have
pursue
other friends.
anybody else?
I have
Whatever.
other friendships, but like, I'm like, but you know,
Oh my
it's
God.
almost like you just have to choose that one person in a way sometimes, and kind of really invest in that one person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's obviously Alex. Like, so I just kind of made that decision in my mind, and I was like, that, you know, that's my best friend, and we're gonna be best friends till the end if she wants to be. So
Wow, that's a big commitment.
so that's how I was like, once I made that decision, I'm like, that's my bestie, that's my homie, that's the person I want to, you know, invest all my friendship time in mostly. I mean, it's mostly just us. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to, you know, we're going to do stuff together, and we do things. We just involve each other and, you know, in each other's lives. We make sure that we spend time together or whatever, just anything to constantly connect.
Yeah, where you made the conscious decision, I made it
You just fell
unconsciously.
into
Yeah,
it.
I just fell into it because I mean, she was gone, and obviously you have people come and go, but when and what you said about having friends with the same kind of moral standings that you have that's where I could never connect because I had a different set of ideals, morals, values. That and honestly, even when I did try to maintain those friendships, it just never really stuck. Yeah. It was kind of one of those things where I can still kind of reach out and talk to those people because I'm not going to be a butt, you know. I'm not going to completely forget because, you know, there were meaningful situations or conversations that we had. But honestly, nothing ever stuck like it did with Daniella.
Yeah.
And I guess that is God speaking, you know, through her, because she's always been a spiritual influence in my life. She's always been that kind of person to lead me, because I haven't always been, you know, the most morally upstanding. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that, you know, I because I have values, I am the best. No, but she's always been kind of that grounding person for me, and you need that so much in a friend. Like, yes, someone to uplift, always to bring you up and praise you, but also at the same time someone to be like, I think you should either take it down a notch or maybe rethink your thought process. But and also just having the flexibility, because I know that she's in a time of her life with her kids that her kids need her. Her kids, that's mommy. So that's always going to be a priority no matter what. And I'm okay to fall secondary. I think some people kind of get a little bit offended at the fact, like, oh, but I was here first. Okay, well, you're sorry, but things change, priorities change. So I think having that kind of mental flexibility to understand that, hey, life is just a little different now, so we gotta play it a little differently. Is super important.
Yeah, I love how you said that. We all need that friend that calls us like higher, or calls us out on our stuff first, because I feel like we want like feel good friends or like moment, and I get a lot of questions of like, how do you know if you have like the right group of friends, or how can you find like certain groups of friends? And I know everybody's values or what they prioritize is so different. So it's like once you find that out, then it's like finding those people. It's like it's usually there's a lot of people that you can have fun with, but it's like the next level of friendship. It's like there's just it's a few, and that takes time. And sometimes people aren't ready for those type of friends because they're like not at that place. They're like, no, but like we were just having a good time. Yeah. But like I don't like it's like conflicting, or like they're not willing to like take it, accept that maybe they need to work on some stuff. And same with the other person. And then the second point that you said about with, you know, changing of the lifestyle, like from marriage. So like, were you guys like single at the same time, married at the same time? Like, how has that
It was pretty similar.
I think the only time was like dating. I started dating first, and
boys didn't like me. I only had one boyfriend. My husband was my second boyfriend, I guess. So I had two boyfriends.
You had more meaningful relationships.
I didn't know about that. Well.
But sometimes it would, you know, coincide, but more often it was kind of, we were kind of missing.
Yeah. Well, but I got married in 2014 and you got married in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were pretty close in timelines. Yeah.
So has it been hard to adjust, because how you were sharing that of like, you know, now as a mom and now as like being married, but you still have, you know, it's different still. So how has that been like to adjust with time and, you know, intentionality within the relationship and friendship as things change or are hard, you know, in life? How have you guys navigated that?
Well, I think that, like I said, you kind of have to, especially on my side, because I have like to navigate the kid part, which is really hard, because it's like, who's going to watch the kids or whatever. I mean, Alex comes over to the house, so that's really great. She can come over and be with us there. Or I really like to separate myself from the house.
You're like, I actually need
a friend time. So we try to do that. I would say on average about once a month. We at least once a month, we like just do something together. Yeah. Whether it's just grabbing coffee or breakfast or like going
outside
out.
Of the house,
right.
Kind of thing.
And that's, I know for me, it's very fulfilling for me, because I'm like, I just need to detach. So just making that priority of like, let's just go do something and plan it and do it and follow through and like just do it.
For sure.
But we also have the flexibility, because she's so great at being flexible of like just coming over to the house or whatever. Or we'll go over to her house. Sometimes she has chickens and my son loves to see the chickens and the dogs.
Your whole farm over
her
there.
little farm. Yeah. It's like so cool. So it's just that. It's like just making it work. Let's just figure it out and keep it flexible, you know?
Yeah. What about for you?
For me, it was just understanding, you know, your mental your headspace in that moment. So I know that for newlyweds, obviously you're very much into each other at the beginning. And so I get that. So, you know, you need that space. You need that time to connect with your spouse. And so I'm kind of like that stand in the background. I've always been like a background person. I'm not the person that kind of is at the front. I've always been the behind the scenes. So for me, it was knowing and understanding the mindset of the time. Yeah, so newlyweds, okay, you need that time together. You're building this relationship together. And, you know, that's a friendship in and of itself. So that has to be cultivated because you're learning so many new things. Especially with us, we didn't live with our partners prior to, so we were both kind of, I mean,
like,
I was definitely learning a lot of things.
Oh, year
like,
one is so tricky. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't know.
I'm like, oh, so you put your socks there? Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So like, okay.
So you
this
just
is what
missed,
marriage is.
Yeah. You just missed the hamper.
By like
right
20
there.
feet.
Okay. So yeah, there's that learning curve of marriage. So
Yeah.
that takes its own time. And then obviously when she decided to have kids, I understood that those are newborn babies and they're going to need a certain amount of time. So understanding the mindset of the other person is, I think, very pivotal, and not holding yourself in such high regard sometimes. I mean, I'm all for like feeling empowered and loving yourself, but at the same time, don't hold yourself to such a high position in someone's life, because that can change, and it's okay that it changes.
Those are like the expectations that we put on the relationship or the person.
And I think those need to ebb and flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's hard because like with me and my friendships, I feel like there was a stage of like my early 20s, like everybody was getting married, but I was still in a relationship and I was single. And then everybody would get married or they were in relationships, and I was now the single one because I had gone through a breakup. And then it was like, then people started having kids, like marriage. And so I got to the place that I'm like, oh my God, I started feeling that, like I didn't know how to adjust at first, because it was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm losing everybody, or like things are changing. And I felt like during that time though, I learned so much about myself and knowing like how, I call them categories of friends, but it's like in the way of like, trying to see your place in people's life and being okay that it doesn't mean that you guys aren't close anymore or that they're a horrible friend. It's just that their life has changed and your life has changed. And so how can you guys evolve the friendship?
Totally.
You know, because that's when a lot of people like just kind of
break apart
or go apart. So I feel like the past few years, I've made more single friends, which has helped me in certain areas. But also I have my deeper friendships, you know, that I'm still like, we're understanding each other at the level that we're at, you know, and we're like, okay, like we've chosen each other as a friend, right? So we're going to cultivate and continue to grow in this friendship, and it's going to take some learning.
Exactly.
So I love how you shared that, because it's true. It's like sometimes we get frustrated in friendships because we're like, they don't meet our expectations.
Right.
But maybe it's because of the way that we see it. It's not the level of what's really happening, you know?
Right.
So were you guys able to like communicate through that, of like that shift, or was just kind of like you personally being like, okay, like this is shifting, so I'm going to support in whatever way?
Right. It was one of those things that you could obviously see what was going on, plus you could feel the shift. So it's like, I am here for whenever you need me. Yeah. Even though maybe I'm not at the forefront, just let me know I'm there, and I'm your support always. Yeah. But yeah, it was just, it just came naturally for me. I know that's not for everybody. I know sometimes it requires some introspection, and it's hard to go through that shift because you feel like you're losing. But for me, it came naturally.
And I can see where that could be the breaking point. Like I could see where, like, when kids get involved in the picture, like friendships, I could totally see it like breaking off there. But Alex was great. I don't think we ever had like a formal like, so now that I have children, like there was no conference meeting. Yeah, that never happened. But we definitely, there was definitely like a natural adjustment. Things just shifted a little bit, and yeah, I feel like Alex was really great at just being like super flexible and like going with the flow of whatever came.
And so I heard this the other day. It was like a post about like what your single friend wants you to know as in your friendship, and then what does your married friend want you to know about friendship. And so I want to hear from your guys' perspective. Even though you're married, right, and all of that, what do you want people to still know about your need and for friendship? Like, how important is that for you, even though you have a partner and you have all of that?
You need your same gender friend. Like my husband, he is like my best friend, and we go out and we have fun together. We have so much fun, but it gets to a point where like I need girl talk, and you're not it. Okay,
You don't get it.
like
You are not understanding.
like you can try to hide the beard and whatever, but
He has
it's
a big
just
beard.
not gonna. Yeah, it's like down here. It's just not gonna work. And obviously, talking to a female about things offers such a unique perspective, a female perspective, something that because guys obviously have like their logic and they wanna. It's like I'm not actually asking for solutions. I just
want to vent and
yeah,
sit
I
in my
need
sorrows
someone
really
to
quick.
vent, and I need someone to be on my side, even if it's wrong. We can't. I'm not condoning that all the time, but sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, she was a real beard. But yeah, it's so important to have that, and then when we go get coffee, just have that change in scenery to go be in each other's company is so refreshing because you kind of get used to. So I'm used to how my husband responds to things and how what he's gonna say, but then when I hang out with Daniella, it's like, oh, she thinks I'm super funny. I still got it.
I'm just like, the whole time.
A little affirmation.
So
yes.
yeah, so I know it may seem, especially if you're not at the same stage. It may seem like your married friend doesn't want you, but they really do. Like we really need you to stick around because having you is just is it's refreshing. It brings so much refreshment to your life. And
That's a great word.
And I couldn't imagine not having Daniella.
Well, I went through, I've talked about it on our podcast, but I went through a point where I was literally at a crossroads. I was like, my marriage was in a really, really awful place. And I was like, I literally had to come to Alex and like, I was like in full desperation. When I think back to it, I'm like, so cringy. But I was like, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I don't know, and I had to just be like, I was in a really difficult situation. And she became my lifeline. Like she became because I obviously I couldn't vent to my husband about this. This was about the marriage.
It's about you.
This is about you, and you need to change. No, obviously I went through it's it's a whole thing. But she was that person because even sometimes family members, I don't want to make them biased or like judge or like create some sort of judgment or judginess about it. Yes. So obviously my mom and my sister, I love them and I talk to them about everything, but there are some things that I'm like, I can't talk to you about this.
Yeah.
And Alex was that person that I was like, I need to talk to you and I need to tell you everything that's going on. And she was such a great help. And I'm so grateful that she like gave me the advice she did. Obviously, it probably seemed like an obvious advice to be like, just stay married. But at the moment,
sometimes it doesn't seem obvious.
At the moment, but she gave me sound advice, and at the moment, I was like, I don't want to. But at the moment, she gave me such sound advice, and she could have sided with me and been like, I feel you, you're right, like, you need to be happy, blah blah blah. But the fact that she gave me that sound, honestly, biblical advice, I am so grateful because I was in a really bad state of mind, and she was able to be that clarity for me that I needed. So I would say I love her for friendship. I need that. I need that fun. I need that fun element in my life sometimes when you're, the everyday mommy life. It's like doing all these things every single day and then you wake up and then it's repeat, Yeah. So the fun aspect is so great and the refreshing. I love that word. It's very refreshing. But on another level, it was like she was pivotal in at really, really difficult times.
Wow. Well, that's amazing that first you were vulnerable to her, and then you being able to like, because I feel like that's like wisdom. It's like when you're like, okay, I know that like you're my best friend, but like ultimately like I'm rooting for both of you guys because I believe in your relationship, and I believe, you know what I mean, like seeing it beyond the moment, because I feel like when friends, and I've seen it in dynamics of like they're like, oh, like he's terrible, he's toxic, like, you know, leave him right now, like,
and she could have done that.
yeah,
She didn't.
no, of course, and like how much kind of influence she has to sway that, or maybe be like, yeah, you know, but like you were able to be like, I know this is just a moment, or like, you know, walk through. And of course, like not talking about extreme cases of certain things, but I feel like that's such a wisdom moment, which I feel like that's so necessary in friendships, you know, to be like, I can go to you in these moments and knowing that you're not going to judge me.
Right.
I remember having like a heart to heart, and even through the things that I've gone through in like toxic relationships and other decisions of my life, where I have had literally been like, I know what I'm saying. Sounds a little like unhinged, like, so just hear me out, but it's like just to get it out and just share my thoughts and be like, I know maybe this is like a moment thing, but like I need that direction or that clarity, or like to kind of like remind me who I am sometimes, or be like, no, like this is just right now, but we're gonna get through this, or whatever the case may be. Like that is so helpful in friendships, and I definitely feel like that is like the beauty of friendships, because you can like really help each other through those hard times that other people just won't understand.
And it comes down to trust. I think that's the basis, is that you're able to trust that person with bearing your soul. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to show you everything I know, and please don't leave me, and please don't judge me. And I know she would never judge me, you know, and I know she would never like tear it down or just, you know, so I think that's the key thing. And not to be like all like Christianese or whatever, but the fact that we have the same faith is everything, honestly. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I could go deep with a friend that does not believe the same things that I believe at a foundational spiritual way, in that same way. So I think that is where that ultimate trust comes from, you know, that we both have that same perspective spiritually. That really makes all the difference to me. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And even to be able to pray for each other, because aside from like encouraging and being like, you got this, girl, but like to actually be like, I'm praying for you, literally, and like I'm covering your family with whatever's going on, you know, and I'm like that means so much more, you know, and someone that like has gone through, like, you know, I've walked with friends through a lot of things of like illnesses or grief and different things, like, and just having that I know it's not me, because in my own senses it's not like I don't know the words to say, or I don't know like how to be there, but it's like,
but the Holy Spirit just takes over.
It's like, God, like, you know what they need, I'm just gonna be here, I'm gonna be like your hands and feet here, and you do, but like, you know, because you can only do so much.
That's the best thing you can do.
Yes. So how has that looked like when it comes to like single friends? Do you find it hard as a married person? Do you find it hard to have single friends or have different people in different stages? Yes.
Whoa.
She's like, yes.
Whoa. I thought about it a little bit, and you're like, yes.
You're like, what are your thoughts?
In some ways.
Okay.
In some ways.
So because I take such a very old school perspective on my marriage, where my husband, you know, I see him as the head of the house. I run everything by him first, and, you know, he gets ultimately the final say. Sometimes that causes a lot of friction with people, believe it or not, because if they say, hey, you know, you want to hang out such and such time, I'm like, okay, well, let me go ahead and run that by my husband first, make sure we're not, oh, well, why?
Yeah.
Like, why would that even be? Like, well, I don't, maybe there's something planned, maybe he needs me for something, I don't know, but to him, I always make myself available first before I make myself available to anyone else, just because I entered into that covenant with him, and that's how I operate. Yeah. So sometimes with certain people, that's a little bit difficult of a concept for them to grasp. And I'm not saying everyone has to operate in that way in their marriage, but that's how I do. And sometimes people kind of take that in a weird way. Okay. They might think he's controlling, and he's really not. He just more,
It's a
more
different,
often than not, he's like, whatever, go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's
Yeah.
normal. You guys share your life. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's very hard. It's most women also, we're the ones that are like on the calendar, like, all right, what is
Yeah.
it? What is
Exactly.
this stuff that I have
Exactly.
to do? So no, that makes complete sense. But I mean, I guess because what I'm saying is like, when I think about like what from a single perspective, right? There's like this, like, on TikTok you hear it a lot. It's like, oh well, when you're single, like you kind of get praised more like in things when you're married, and it's like more understanding in friendships when you're married because like, oh, you have kids or you have this, but then sometimes as a single, like being the single friend within that, it's like you also still need support too,
Right.
and like you still want to be involved in certain things with the single with your married friends. It's not like you're like, I'm gonna be part of the group eventually, but I'm not married yet.
Right.
So it's like, I guess navigating those situations of like how as a single you can also like cultivate friendships that are not just single girls. It's like you can have married friends and people of different that are in different stages of your life that you can learn from, because I feel like that has helped me so much personally, like having the different stages
Right.
and people, but I understand like if you have a certain lifestyle and your maybe single friends have certain expectations and lifestyles that don't align, that you're like, that's not where I should be on a Friday night personally, then I understand, sometimes that's not going to work because it is different once you're married versus you're single. So, yeah. So maybe that's like to clarify the statement of like
right.
friendships like that. Have you guys had that experience of like having...
I feel like I had a lot of my friends were single for a long time. I was one of the first ones to get married. So I think a lot of my friends, I just always kind of had single friends, but I think the real changing point for me was the kids. You know what I mean?
So
like I feel like that was the big adjustment. Because when at least for me, when I was married, it was kind of just like, and nothing really changed that much in terms of but I did miss, there was a lot of things that I missed in terms of like friendship. I feel like there is a shift when you get married, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because it is almost like this priority of like, okay, now I got to prioritize my husband. And like, there's a bit of a shift when it comes to like planning things and getting together. And so I think there's a little bit of a shift. I don't know.
Like within that time, and then it goes to like once you have kids, which I know that that's a big shift. I guess it was just because I saw that and I was like, I mean, personally, I feel like it does, like with my married friend, right? We have to be more intentional about like, we have our time together, but there's a few times that it's like we all do something together, like with her husband, and I hang out with them, and that's like so filling for me because I'm like, I'm a part of, that's like our like, we're a part of our lives, we're doing life together versus being like, this is my friend over there, and then like, this is my life here, and then that's, of course, a few friends can get that close because that's like another level of closeness when you're like having dinner with people and things like that. And so for you guys, in the dynamic that you guys are now with like the podcast, all of that, how do you guys see it's evolving your relationship or your friendship?
I definitely feel like we're spending so much more time together and like I said, talking about those hard things.
Yeah, we're having the conversations are a lot more in depth about very, very heavy topics. And that kind of lets us know each other's perspective on each topic and kind of still to this day learning about how each other kind of sees the world.
Totally. That's a good point.
Because there's a lot of things about Daniella that I was like, oh, I didn't know you saw it that way, or I didn't know you felt that way about that. That's interesting. And they don't always coincide, but to know that, despite the fact that they don't coincide, we're still here for each other. But it has definitely led to more growth in our relationship, and I love that. I love that because not that we were in a stagnant place, we were just in a very comfortable place, which is fine. But I think, as you continue to go through life, learning, growing in your own self, you need to take the time to learn and grow about and with your friends.
Yeah.
I think it's only brought good things. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not annoyed of each other just yet.
No,
No,
not at
not just
all.
yet.
No,
Not just
not
yet.
at all. Not at all.
No, because that's sometimes it's like you're doing
That was
so
my
much
fear,
together.
though. That
yeah,
was
you're
my
like,
fear.
are we gonna not like each other?
That was
like
my
they say
fear.
that even like living with your best friend or stuff like that like brings out
I
the
think
worst
that
in
might be
people.
hard.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that
I think that might be hard.
You're
but-
like,
because I'm a certain way, and
You're particular about stuff.
I can
Yeah.
get very particular.
Yeah.
And I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in a current living situation where the other person does not respect my particularities. Not my husband, but
boyfriend.
and
Just kidding.
my other living boyfriend. But and it drives me up the wall. So and you know every person
Yeah.
is different, and the way they do things is different. And
Yeah.
I should be able to have the mental capacity to be like, hey, it's okay if they do it that way. It's all that matters is that it gets done.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, whatever way you're doing is the wrong
Is
way.
wrong
And
in my house.
let me show you the right way, okay?
so funny.
Yeah, that would probably be the hardest is living with
Huh.
each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like,
But-
love you, but over here.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's some friendships, like I've talked about this before, that it's like there's some friendships that you can travel with, some that you cannot. Some people that you can like, you kind of can plan things with, others, no. Other like it's like
It's
you
true.
have to know people's personality and you have to know how to like navigate that. Because I feel like in my 20s, my early 20s, I was like, I got to see how I was in certain dynamics of like big groups because I naturally am a planner, right? So like when I go on a trip, I'm like, all right, itinerary, what are the top places to go to? Like I want, like I'm there for X
A
amount of
reason.
time.
Yeah, you got to get
Right.
stuff
Like,
done. Yeah.
But some people don't travel like that.
Right.
Some people are like, I'm going to wake up at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and just whatever we
Right.
can make it.
No.
Like,
Right.
no.
Right.
Absolutely not.
There's a difference between a vacation and a trip.
Yeah.
You're planning a trip. Like, we need to get stuff done.
Yes. But that can cause so many conflicts.
Yes.
Because you're like, oh my God, I will never travel with you again. Or even navigating conflict of
Yeah.
like when, people get heated. Like I feel like my 20s has been, because I've been single too, and I know that that's like I have traveled a lot with friends. I've done a lot of things like that. And I'm super grateful for the opportunities, but I've learned so much about myself of like, yeah, definitely can't live with people. Definitely, like I'm particular about stuff. I can only travel in a group of like 4 people. Meaning like when you're going to travel versus,
Vacation.
Yeah, like a day trip or something
yes.
like that. Yeah.
And like I know even with my family, I know where to go with them. I'm like, okay, we're only doing cruises and all inclusives.
Yeah.
Anything else, I'm not gonna take
We're
you
not
to New
picking
York.
restaurants.
No, in New York, my parents literally, I chose all these places in New York to have the best food. They're like, yo no sé lo que es eso. Like, I don't understand what the name is. I don't even know it. Like, let's go to TGI Fridays.
Oh, no.
TGI Fridays. I said,
No.
I am done with you. I am done with you.
You probably found like the
guys-
most
I
authentic,
found
like
all these
amazing places. Yeah.
I took so much time. I was so mad, and I was
TGI
like,
Friday.
"You guys,
That's
are,
a
these
that's
are,
a like breaking point for me.
It is.
That's a breaking
It
point,
is.
friendship wise
We're
and
done.
relationship
Yeah,
wise.
yeah,
It
no,
might-
no.
no.
I mean, luckily we're 2 big foodies,
We're
so
foodies,
we
yeah.
would definitely.
And my husband's a foodie.
Yeah.
Her husband's
Yeah,
a foodie.
so-
I want the small like mom and pop shops,
Totally.
like the food that I'm only gonna get there.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna go to Olive Garden
No.
in North Carolina, but that's a certain way that people travel.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
And you're
no.
so right. You're
it's
so
just,
right.
but all that to say is that all those situations, they like teach you things about yourself and like also friendships, you know, because you're like in those situations that you're like, how am I gonna? So
Yeah.
have personality wise, you said that you guys are both passive. So when something has come up or like you feel some type of way
Towards
does
each other.
towards each other, like do you guys bring it up? Like
No.
who's the conflict person?
No. Never.
So
So you guys aren't confrontational at all.
we're really bad at this.
Yeah.
So this is something
It's
we
an
talked about
area.
on our show.
Yeah.
We are not good at conflict. And we do need to be better at this. So
Yeah.
this is something that we need to work on, being more open and honest when things
Okay.
bother us.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
So, but yeah, no, we
So
don't.
do you guys like wait until it builds up?
Well, we never really. had,
We
like,
never
a-
let
You're
it
just
build
gonna
up.
get over it.
It's,
You
yeah,
just
we
kinda get
literally
over
just
it.
get over
You're
it.
like, it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, it's
Gotcha.
yeah. Inside, I'm like, But then I'm like, okay, it's fine. And then eventually, yeah, it's fine. Because it's one of those things where...
This is not a healthy way to handle
Well,
conflict.
the thing is, laughter is like the best medicine. So if we're just joking around and I'm like, I can't even remember what it was that caused the issue in the first place.
So you guys just don't take offense to things.
I think that might be what it is. Yeah, because I'm trying to think. I don't think there's ever been like a big fight.
I'm glad you put it in a very nice box.
Yeah, because I feel like
it's my therapist hat. I'm like, so what I hear.
What I hear you say is that you guys are both toxic. There hasn't been an issue where we're like really mad at each other. I don't think.
No.
I think one time in LA, I got kind of mad at you on the phone. I don't know if you remember. I think that was the one and only time.
I do not remember.
That I was like actually kind of mad, but I can't think of anything like. I mean, what have I hurt you? I feel bad now. I'm like, did I ever do something bad to you?
I'm really forgetful when it comes to like any kind of, I don't want to call it injustice because that's going too far, but
all the injustices.
When it comes to trespassing my feelings, so to speak, I don't really, no.
We're kind of like each
other's that we have
really...
to leave at the table today.
I don't think
Nothing
so.
recently.
No, I don't think so.
This is a safe space. As I already talk about.
With 3 cameras in the room, it's a safe space.
Just talk about it here live. If you've never brought it up.
Now, I'm like,
now
Alex, remember that thing in 2011? We're going to talk about it right now.
No. Like, I don't even know what. I forget everything.
Oh my God. No, honestly, conflict is the hardest thing. And so it's not to say like, most people don't deal with conflict, and so in friendships, I know that things can come up. It's just how you process it and handle it. Yeah. I'm very passive too, believe it or not, and I have struggled with that, but I've worked on it very intentionally to be like, all right, I have to say certain things, especially if it's like bottling up, because for me, this is just me, this is my toxic trait. I can become like petty, or I can start getting a little like passive aggressive if something bothers me and I don't say it. So if I was someone that would be like, oh, like totally forgot. No, I remember. So because of that,
I'll never forget.
Because of that, I have like worked on like being like, okay, the way that it's approached or like what you said was a little, and not with everybody. There's still certain people that because of certain personality types that you're like, they have like a high fuse, meaning like they're like reactive or they're very confrontational. Sometimes you don't feel comfortable to bring up stuff because you're like, ooh. Like, I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. But then some people, I've been able to navigate those conflicts or being like, hey, like, I reacted a certain way, so I'm sorry. Or like, certain things like that. Or like, this hurt me. But it's hard. It's not easy to do. But I feel like for me, that has helped to be more vulnerable in certain friendships, because I'm like, I don't want to pretend that that didn't affect me. Or like, I don't want to
because that's not good either.
Yeah. Because so like for some people, if it genuinely doesn't bother you, then it's like, hey, you don't have, but there's certain things that I know in friendships that can hurt us, or that can be like, oh, maybe you didn't mean it, but I just need clarity because the way that it came out, it sounded like you were saying something, but is that what you meant?
And I think with that, we usually try to nip it in the bud right there because we are overthinkers, both of us. So it's like, oh, wait, did that come out weird? Like, I didn't mean for it to come out that way. Or we're usually really quick with that one. If there's any room for misunderstanding, we're like, oh wait, no, and not like that. And then she's like, no, it's fine. It wasn't like that. And then it usually turns out just being us overthinking. But yeah, when it comes to that kind of, but yeah, I don't think we really.
No, we don't. We don't have like big fights.
No.
I don't know what that says about us.
We should fight.
No, I mean, everybody's different. I've heard of friendships that like they don't talk for a year. They don't talk for a few years because of conflict. And so that's what's like every relationship and friendship is different because it is like a relationship, So it's that dealing with people is not always easy, and depending on how the person is, their personality types, how their dynamic is, how honest and trustworthy someone is too, because when you feel safe, sometimes like you're able to navigate those things better versus when you feel like you're walking on eggshells with people. So it seems like with like everybody's dynamic is different. So at least of what I know, I don't think you guys are unhealthy based on my perspective.
Oh, thank you. Good. I was like, oh gosh.
No, but honestly, I think that that's just something that I know sometimes, friendships can have those ups and downs. So what advice would you guys give to someone that wants to cultivate friendships or find like good friends in their life?
I would say start with what's most important to you in terms of like what do you want the foundation of your friendship to be? Like I mentioned, for us, faith was the thing for me. Like even though we did happen to go to the same church, but we met in high school, but we did happen to end up at the same church. But I think that is foundationally what's really important to me to be able to keep this friendship sustainable. I would say look for, like, if you're super artistic or crafty or whatever, I would say find people that are like-minded that you can bond with and maybe start building that trust with, because you're like, oh, I like this too, and then you can start slowly. I mean, if you're strangers, it's so hard to go from strangers to friends.
Yeah.
So starting those little building blocks, putting those little building blocks, and I think having a commonality, whether it is faith or whether it's health and working out or whether it's an artsy person or joining a book club. I don't know if they even have book clubs anymore, but like, you know what I mean? Like something like-mindedness, I think is really important. And we're going to a She Cultivates event.
Thank you. Yes, come to She Cultivates Orlando. You can meet people in real life.
Yeah.
That's good advice, though. What about
And
you?
to piggyback off of that, be intentional. It's always a really rocky start when you're trying to, like she said, go from strangers to friends. But you know, if you keep kind of reaching out to this person, hey, let's go to this event on such and such day. It does take time, and you need to understand that. However, sometimes, and this is kind of a weird segue, but you need to know when to cut your losses as well. Because sometimes we tend to pour maybe too much time and effort into someone who is not someone we share. Not that you have to share commonality with anyone, but, you know, someone that you just don't have the same values. I think overall values is what's going to be the most important, because you can share all the commonality in the world, but if you're not sharing those same values and principles, you're going to be at odds with each other a lot. So I think kind of knowing when to quickly cut your losses and move on to the next person, because there are people, I mean, supposedly we're one of like the loneliest generations.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of people
That want
to
to.
suit each other's needs. You just need to find it's like dating. You just need to find someone that suits your needs. Don't take it personal. It's just that you weren't suited for each other, and there is that soulmate friend out there waiting for you, longing for you. But yeah, just definitely putting the intentionality behind it is super, super key, because if you don't cultivate it, if you don't grow it, if you don't, you know, make time for it, then there is no room to harvest that friendship in the end.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good reminder, because it's like, yes, it's finding the person that, you know, like knowing that friendship will take time, and that through that there will be things that maybe you're like, this is not either reciprocated, or it's not like we're friends, but it's not at the capacity of like maybe growing together, and that's okay. And other friendships in your life, that is you never know what friendships can start. And sometimes I think back to like, especially my early 20s, of people that I'm like, oh my God, I want to be friends with her. And I would like ignore people that were like trying to reach out to me or trying to hang out with me, because I'm like, I want to be like part of this group. It was like, now I'm like, Liz, you made, and I like, it's like we can do that sometimes, that we're like, I want to fit in this group, or I want to be, but it's like, look around you, maybe there's some people that are already, when we're like, oh my God, I have no one, and then it's like you have people that are literally reaching out to you and really checking up on you or interacting with you on Instagram and stuff like that. It's like, those are the people that you can be like, hey, like, do you want to meet up for a coffee? Or like, you know, now that Friendsgiving in the holidays, like doing a holiday activity together, to be like, hey, like I saw this thing on like stuff to do in Orlando. Like, do you want to come with me? I am going to go this day. Like those little things that it's like, it can start leading to something of like, okay, like maybe we can be friends from this.
And I think you feel it. I think you can kind of tell, you know, like it's kind of like a dating relationship where you're like, I can kind of feel our chemistry. Like, I feel like this is vibing. Like, I feel like we're understanding each other. There's a flow. There's this, I think you kind of know if it's working or not in terms of friendship.
But I definitely think it's over time.
It takes time.
Because I literally feel like it's like
takes
an
time.
instant. And I'm like, I think it's like over time. It's like literally giving it time.
Yeah.
And like not not putting ourselves at like, oh my God, like this is my best friend. Because I know sometimes people get like that, like, oh my God, we're best friends. We're all I'm very
It's a little triggering to you.
Yeah. Yes. Personally, that's just my own triggering work. But because I feel like that's something that like is, friendship is a gift, and that is something that is cultivated with a few. And so to use that word to be like, this is my best friend and this is my best friend and this is like, I feel like, do those people really know you though? You know, like you can have friends, you can have acquaintances, but I feel like there are certain things that just to guard yourself too, to make sure that you're stewarding your time well with the people that should receive the time, and then same, like, you know, that you're also building that connection with those people too.
I'm just thinking, like, do guys think about this? Do guys go into depth about
like,
friendship?
What is guy friendship like?
Tell us.
Do you guys have full-length conversations about how do we become friends? I don't think so.
I do.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
Chris
So
does.
Chris said yes.
Chris does.
Yeah. I mean, you seem like an intentional man. You do. But no, that's something that for sure I feel like we
Girls are like,
women
nah,
are
nah,
like
nah.
over
All
here
this
like
over-
let's
yeah.
just talk about this. But I feel like guys, I know that they need that space too, and they
They
definitely
need it. They do. They
those
do need
people.
it.
Yeah.
I think they just don't think that they need it, or they make the
Yeah.
time for it as much as.
Yeah, my
girls
husband
Yeah.
thinks
But
he
they
can
need
be an
it.
island,
Agreed.
and no man is an island. Like I'm
Yeah,
like, babe, you want to go out there and meet friends? Go, because he's
Like,
such
"Nah,
a
I'm
solitary. He had the same best friend for so long, and they ended up kind of, drifting apart. And so now I'm like trying to find like men's groups and trying to get him in there and whatever.
Craigslist man looking for man friend.
Who's looking for a friend? A tall,
A bearded
bearded
man.
Tall bearded man.
from Orlando looking for.
Yeah,
That's so real. No,
He likes
honestly, I
cars.
have found myself, even in relationships that I've been in, like, because I guess, like, naturally I'm, like, social and stuff like that, I've always wanted my partner to have, like, a group of friends, too. And so that's always been something that I'm, like, I become friends with a girl, and then she has a boyfriend. I'm like, oh, my God, you should hang out with him. Like, you guys have this in common.
Buddies.
You guys like movies? Let's plan a movie date. Like, I am very, like, much like that, too, because I feel like it's so important for them, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Very
need that, and they don't. I don't think guys overall prioritize it as
Yeah.
much. You know.
But I think it, like, I saw something that said that me and my saw something. My research shows that also men are like, when guys hang out together, they start calling them like gay and stuff.
That
Like,
still happens?
Yes.
I thought that was like
no, I know,
2002 or something.
Yes,
2000.
I know, because that word. I'm sorry. Like, but I'm saying the terminology that I see online. I'm
Yeah.
like, what is happening? Are we in high school? Like, what's wrong with like a bromance? What's wrong with friendships? Like,
Gotcha.
guys aren't given that same like space of like, they're okay to have deep, meaningful friendships that are aside from like women. You know, if that's, you know, like, I don't know. It was just interesting because I'm like, they're really still doing that in this world. Like, you know, so I definitely want to say that men need friends too. And
They do.
I think that is something that we all need connection. You know,
do.
aside from having a partner, the person that if you decide to get married, all those things, like, I think that it's so important for us to have a space where we can go beyond the surface, you know, in our relationship.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'd love to have like I haven't even told you, but
Your
like having
husbands?
like, well, our husbands for sure. We do want to have an episode with our husbands, but like also seeing like maybe two best friend guys like talk about best friendship from their
Yes.
perspective.
I love that.
I think that would be really interesting. We need to figure out who. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
My husband doesn't
I
really have
don't
like a
know.
best friend.
No,
I don't
You're
know.
like, I'm on a search for
Yeah, mine's taking applications, I guess, only because I'm making him
I don't
take
know why
applications.
our husbands are not closer
Hilarious.
friends, but because maybe they're too similar.
I think they're too similar, and they just don't.
two quiet bears.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, they need someone to
Was that
spark it
weird
up.
term?
Sounds like its
Terminology?
own ad. Too quiet.
Too quiet.
Yeah.
I loved having you guys on the
Oh my
podcast,
God,
though.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So, Two Quiet Bears looking for
That's their podcast.
looking for two other friends, two talkative,
Yeah, bears.
Too talkative.
and then extroverted.
Zebras. I don't know.
Yes, but for sure, it was really nice talking to you guys.
Thank you for
having you
having
on.
us.
The work that you guys are doing is important.
Thank
and
you.
I love the space that you guys are creating. So I
Same.
know you said your podcast live. Is it every week? Can you share a little bit of details?
So we put a new episode out every Monday. It's called the Soul Sisters Podcast. You can find it anywhere that podcasts live. And so yeah, every Monday we have a new episode out, and so far so good. We're slowly growing. We just launched in July, so
Love that.
a few months.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And any last words before you wrap up?
Any last words?
So
Before the
ominous.
sentencing?
No, I mean, ultimately, no pressure, right? Like, I know that because there is like, oh, we're the loneliest generation. We got to find connections, right? But all in the right time, in the right place. And so it's just, again, being open to those connections, seeing who reciprocates the energy, the time, the effort.
And timing is really important too.
Absolutely.
People come and go, and God puts those important people in your life right at the right moment.
I say pray for that. Pray for your friends.
Absolutely.
Pray for the friends that you want to have, the relationships that you want to have.
Definitely.
Yes. 100%.
I love that. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's podcast episode. I hope you laughed with us, enjoyed, learned some things. And as always, you can find a space as she cultivates oral if you're looking for friends, but also in this community as we're growing. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, leave a review, and I hope you enjoy your holidays, and I will see you guys next week.